channel, we are Some Simple Security, because that's probably the best name we could come up with at the moment.
That isn't already taken by someone with like one video from 10 years ago.
Yeah. And I am,
And I am Mistheist, or Mist for short.
and the general purpose of these videos is to give the average person the knowledge on how to have more security and privacy on the computer, because we know that so many of those videos, they pull up a terminal, they pull up command prompt, and it's just so boring. Nobody really wants to watch that stuff. It's just no one really wants to. They want something simple, something they can do right now that won't cost them 15 bucks or ask them to learn tons more about computers. Would you agree
Yeah,
with that?
yeah. I mean, most people want to use their computers as a tool. They want to get their art done. They want to get their spreadsheets done. They want HR to listen to their complaint. They want to play video games. They don't want to become a complete super user and computer expert in order to be safe and secure online. So I really, I want to educate people on some simple steps that they can take to reduce their potential for misdeeds happening to them without having to, buy books.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so my goal is to have, a couple videos that are, 10 minutes or less, something that you can do easily within an afternoon. Might take, 20 minutes or something to execute some of the things that we're going to suggest. And then you don't have to think about it again. Like once you set things up, it should, help reduce your risk, especially with new things coming in on the horizon, things that have been happening for decades still. That
AI,
yeah,
Experian, all those data breaches, and we'll be getting into that a little bit later in the video, which won't be too far. But let's start out with what our experience or expertise is in this. So, how about you go ahead and start us out, Mist?
okay. Well, so I'm going to go into some of my background. It might end up talking a bit too much, so you can cut me off if it's too much. But my
Oh yeah,
first
anytime.
experience, yeah, my first experience with computers was when my grandfather died. He left me his Tandy 286 from Radio Shack. And it was my first experience with a computer.
What is a Tandy 286? Honestly, even I'm not experienced with that.
So uh, processors before they got their dumb, weird little marketing names used to just go by the instruction set that ran the CPUs. So it started with 8080s, and then they upgraded to 8086, and then it was 8186, 8286, 8386, 8486, 8586, 8686, and then after that they started going into things like Celeron and other.
Okay, so at this point, I guess I'd just tell the audience, because the only thing I'm really thinking of right now is Commodore 64 ask.
Yeah, it's more advanced than the Commodore 64, but not by much. It ran
Yeah.
DOS 3.0. And my uncle, who's very, very hardcore conservative Christian, came over to kind of help show me how to use it. And so he showed me how to change directories and the directory structure. He showed me how to copy files. He showed me how to delete files. And then he was going through and he found an executable file on the hard drive and started it up. And I think it was named geograph because you could only name files 8 characters. So it was supposed to be like a geography program. But it turns out that my grandfather had a basically choose your own adventure text adult game, and
Ah,
it popped up with
okay.
some suggestive terms. And so he immediately got super embarrassed and went to go tell my mom. After 10 minutes of him telling me how to use the computer, copied that file to a different directory, hid the directory, and went back to the original directory so that he could safely delete it. But I kept it because I
Hide your
immediately was
kids,
like,
hide your wife, because
yes,
they're
yes,
putting explicit EXEs everywhere.
yes. So 12-year-old me immediately was like, nope, I'm gonna own this machine. This machine is gonna do what I want. And I've progressed ever since. So I started programming. I taught myself how to program when I was 12, and up through age 14, I hacked into my local university and got on their Unix machines. Ran crackerjack all night, which was awesome because it would beep every time it cracked a password. And I would just let it run all night, and I'd just slowly go to sleep hearing a beep every like 10 minutes.
So you're
So I,
basically the, I mean, in our terms, the threat actor that
yes,
everyone should be concerned about. And when I say threat actor, I mean the person who wants to steal your account, whether for fun or to steal money or your identity, whatever.
yes, and that's why this expertise is important because you have to think like a criminal. You have to understand how someone is going to attack a system. And in order to do that, you kind of have to have an adversarial kind of dark mindset, honestly. So I never messed with anyone's data. I just wanted to get on the system and learn how to use Unix. And I got on their X25 system, which was the whole statewide university system. But I couldn't do much because I really didn't know all that much. So, I didn't delete anything. But, it was fun to get on the system and just kind of see what was going on.
All right, so you definitely have a fairly extensive background for
Yeah.
between us.
Hmm.
As for me, I basically started my computer expertise by being kind of like how many Gen Y or Millennial, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha think of boomers trying to use computers. I was that level. I had a new game, Age of Empires 2, for anyone
I
who's
love that
wondering.
game. Spent so many hours on
And
that.
this was back in the days when a 20 gigabyte hard drive was great. It was amazing. That was a lot of space. I still didn't have enough space for the game. So I deleted System 32.
Whoa.
I was
Don't do
able to
that.
play the game until I rebooted the computer and then nothing worked. I was so embarrassed. I decided to learn all I could about computers so this wouldn't happen again. And that just kind of snowballed. And now I'm running a media server. I have a computer that I built myself. And I'm trying to kind of make my own at home Internet of Things. So, like light bulb, smart speaker, stuff like that, but not run by Google, Apple, whatever.
Hmm.
So I have that mindset of I know how difficult it seems at the beginning, but I also know the more detailed parts and I can kind of translate those. So when you're talking all the tech gobbledygook, I may understand it as A, B, C, D. I'll have to translate it, and I can do that with maybe some oversimplification for
Hmm.
people who know a lot, but it's enough to really understand what is going on.
Yeah. And by all means, neither of us are professionals in this space. I don't work in computers. I work in a completely different industry so that I can still enjoy computers. I run my own server. I run a cloud server. I run an internet radio station. Yeah, I run quite a few little things, and my hobbies keep me passionate and enthusiastic. And I keep in touch with all of the relevant security things just because it's something that I'm very much interested in and I like to share. And I've had a lot of friends ask me some best practices, and I put together some other videos, but they were definitely low quality. They were,
I mean, I can attest to that. I can attest to that. Editing out your ums and ers and that
I
that
was so
was
mumbly and sniffly. I think I was like sick in like at least two of those videos. So I'd like to kind of clean it up and make it more of a general audience sort of thing, so that we can share it far and wide, and even
absolutely.
share it with people that I don't necessarily agree with politically. I think they can still.
It doesn't matter. I think
It
everyone
doesn't.
should have knowledge of
Yeah.
security on their own systems
Hmm.
because you shouldn't be giving up all of your privacy and security to a single company, especially when, like, we hear about LastPassword, we hear about Experian, we hear about, I think Google had a thing with their Authenticator app recently. So putting all of your trust in those companies has a definite potential to backfire. If you are managing your own security, then you know who's at fault, but you also know how secure you are. At least, hopefully, by the end of these videos. That is our goal.
Yeah. And a lot of my friends will say like, oh, yeah, my info got taken. Well, like that sucks for them because I'm $1,000 in debt. So like, yeah, I'll try to get them into acting a little bit more securely, and they'll say, well, who cares? Like, I don't even have any money. I'm in debt. Just because you're $1,000 in debt doesn't mean that someone in Niger doesn't want to put you $10,000 more in debt.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. And I
and
think
you are a target.
another thing about this is the whole why should I care? I'm in debt. Well, do you work for a company where you have a specific logon? With
Yes.
that, you
You
have
may not
more
be the
access
target.
than the average person. And so you having your own password security matters even for the company, or else you might be a liability for that company because you're still using password 123 just for your company login.
Yeah. And what professional, like I'd say black hat or gray hat people will do is when they are targeting, say, like a CEO of a company or someone that it does have high value or high information that these people want, is they do rings. So they'll get, their gardener, they'll get their sister's employer, they'll get that person's cousin, or maybe you went to college with someone. They'll target you in order to spoof your information to get to this more high value target. So you may not even be the target, and you can still be compromised in a pass through attack to someone else. So even if you think you're not valuable, you are.
Yeah, you're a lot more valuable than you think, and that's something that a lot of people don't really understand. I don't really care that much about my personal job that I actually do, but I still have a secure password for that. And I was actually kind of horrified when I heard that my manager does like just password 123. I'm not going to say where I work or what the location
That was
is
my
or
next
anything
question.
like that, but but it's like, oh my god, you're my manager and you're using a much weaker password than me.
Hmm.
That is horrifying.
Yes. And then, yeah, and you know, going forward, depending on what happens in the next several years or decade, a lot more things may become illegal that are not illegal now. My horror story that I tried to scare people with so long ago was, what if Rick Santorum became president? I literally wants to make he wants to make a lot of things illegal.
Yeah.
Um, and some of that can be retroactive. So even if you are, completely um, clean nose, like, doing everything correctly,
Totally within the letter of the law.
yeah, in, 5, 6 years, the stuff that you're doing now may actually be used against you. So keeping your data secure and safe now it's a good policy.
Yeah.
So
And
like,
I think that really ties into like the web history that people have. We always
mhm,
have the jokes of when I die, clear my web history.
yes,
Well, you can also just have it clear for you automatically with
yeah,
stuff like private tabs, but we'll go in that in
yeah,
another one.
yeah. This is more kind of an intro. We'll do like a quick little tutorial on some password security. Future videos will be much more topical. Hopefully,
Yeah.
this will prove some bona fides. I care about the internet at large, and I hope more people on the internet do more safe things. I hope they're more creative. I hope they're more individually motivated. There's a lot of potential on the internet, and I really like it, even if there's a lot of
It's
garbage on there.
yeah, it's a love and hate
Yeah,
relationship.
fully.
Even more so for those who understand computers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, I love the memes, but oh my god, these people.
Yeah.
And you could just go onto Twitter on any day or
Mm.
X, whatever.
Yeah, and then so
Okay.
like and going into like, say, if you have to go out of state for pregnancy related health care, or let's say like hormone health care, or on the flip side, if you want to go to, say, a gun show and you don't want the government to know that you went to a gun show because they might want to take your guns, or what have you. There are ways that you can search for these things and go to these places and be a little bit more secure, um, you know, against, say, a spouse, a roommate, um, advertisers, government, scammers, ransomware. So there's all sorts of things that you may not need right now, but you might need in the future, and it's better to dig the well before you're thirsty.
Yeah.
So you know kind of how to do this stuff ahead of time rather than in the moment when you're panicking or scared or really need some security in that moment.
Okay, so how about we start out with what would make a password good? What are some things that people should be trying for when they're making their new password? Because no one wants to just head mash their keyboard and just try and figure out how they're going to remember that.
Correct. So um, ideally, in a perfect world, every single site that you should use a different password, and the password should be randomly generated. These are not things that the human brain are good at. Like it, or sorry, these are things that the human brain is not good at. So using a password manager is pretty much the safest bet to generate authentically random passwords and unique passwords for each site. In my password manager, I think I probably have about 120 different passwords. I don't know any of them, so I use a program to actually keep track of that. The issue being is now that I have this database of passwords, if someone steals that database, then they have the keys to the kingdom. They pretty much have every single password for all of my accounts, including some of my rescue email accounts. So they could, they could change passwords, and I would be kind of SOL.
All right. And
So
what I'm seeing from this webcomic that you have on the screen is you're looking more for passphrases than
yes.
passwords.
Well, so for your password manager, you're going to want a very long password that you actually can remember. So you don't want it to actually be a string of random text and numbers because you're not going to remember that. So with the XKCD, basically, and you can do this online. There's people that have programs that will generate these for you. I'm not advocating for those because I don't know who wrote that software or if they're sending any information anywhere else. So take that with a grain of salt. But with the password strength, you want a long phrase that does not necessarily make sense, but it's something that you could make a mnemonic or like an image in your head about. So the XKCD one says, correct horse battery staple. So it's long, and he breaks it down with the actual bits of randomness or entropy rather than, and my wife does this all the time. She forgets her passwords constantly and has to reset them like on an almost weekly basis. And I just finally got her to use a password manager like 6 months ago. But yeah, so you want a very long thing that you can actually remember through an image or a mnemonic. A long time ago, they said don't write your passwords down. That's kind of fallen by the wayside. You can write them down because if someone is actually in your home, they have physical access to your computer. There's a whole other host of issues with that, unless you're trying to keep something away from like a roommate or a spouse or a family member.
And I think that is a good point to bring in. What is your threat model? If it takes someone breaking into your house to get your passwords, then you probably
There's a
have,
whole other host of issues.
yeah, you have more issues than just your passwords.
Yeah.
But if there is no expectation of people actually coming into your house to get your passwords, then your passwords alone should be enough security to protect yourself. And so with these long passwords, I should just use the same password for everything, right?
No. So basically, this long password is going to be what you're going to use to set up a password manager. There's several password managers out there. I use password safe, but I'm not going to suggest that for other people because it does come with some more annoying features. It's a local file rather than something you can share on a cloud system. So I'm going to suggest, LastPass or OnePass. There's several password managers out there. I have my opinions about them, but honestly, as long as you're using one, you're fine. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of the differences between them all. Just use one.
I mean,
And
there is one built into Firefox, though, isn't there?
yeah, so what you can do is you can go to, I have a link right here. We have the links. We can put those down in the description of the video. So anything that we're talking about, we'll have links to and how-tos. But if you just go to
To
settings
the little
under
hamburger in the upper
Firefox.
right.
Yeah. I hate the term hamburger, but I guess that's just what it's called.
Yeah, I don't like it either, but
Yeah.
I
But
mean, what
yeah,
else are we
so
going to call it?
yeah. So Firefox in the upper right. I suggest Firefox. I know hardly any people use it, but this is what I use. Any modern browser is going to have this. If you go to settings and then you go to privacy and security or anything, whatever Chrome calls it, whatever Edge calls it, whatever Safari calls it, it's going to be somewhat similar. It's going to be privacy and security, and then there should be, a password section here. So you can tell it to ask to save passwords and then use a primary password. Because otherwise, if you don't use a primary password, then anyone that's using your computer will just automatically get to log into all of your accounts, and you don't want that generally. So use a
So
primary
the
password.
primary password is basically to lock out people from seeing all your other passwords, correct?
Correct. It's a master
Okay.
password. Yeah. So this is the one that would be the long mnemonic one that you can remember. See if
And
I
when
did it
your
right.
when your
No, I
password
didn't.
goes outside of the VBOL area, it's probably good.
Yeah. All right. So I just set up my primary password here. Go to Amazon.com.
Are you going to reveal that you've been a computer the whole time? Oh, no. Okay. You are
I
a
am a
robot.
robot.
You have to...
Oh, good lord. Oh, I see. Okay. I don't know, man.
Wow.
It doesn't want to
Damn.
let me do it. It might actually be some of my. Oh, I have no script on. That might be it.
Oh, yeah. JavaScript blocking.
That's a different video.
Yeah, but a lot of things break with
Yeah.
JavaScript blockers, so that's...
Well,
If you really
this is
want to
not a real
be...
account.
Yeah, if you want to be really paranoid, then you can absolutely use one.
Yeah, pretty much any modern browser is going to have a password manager. Now, if you want to use a password manager on a bunch of different machines, maybe including your phone or your work computer and your home computer, then that's where you would want to branch out into like LastPass, OnePass,
Yeah.
stuff like that, because they have cloud services. And then, so generally, there's going to be rebuttals to all of our suggestions here. Using a different password for every site is just canonically, it's going to be better because your passwords, and it's entirely possible that your passwords have been cracked. You want to go to this site, have I been pwned, and put in an email address.
I love that site.
Yeah,
I've used it a couple times
it's
just out of curiosity.
it's shocking.
You'll
Yeah,
absolutely
I've
find
been
that
breached a couple
something.
times. Yeah, and so anytime that that email address is associated with any site out there, people are going to try to use that password if it's been involved in a data breach. So what you want to do is make sure that each site has a different password because this is the low-hanging fruit for people trying to steal your information, spoof your account, steal your identity.
And I believe they also have like a subscription thing where
They do.
anytime that your email is found, then they'll email you about it.
Yeah. And Google actually has a pretty good service. It's kind of buried deep in their account policy and stuff, but you can have Google do that for you as well if you have a Google account, and it'll break down all the data that has been found about you on the so-called dark web. So yeah, if you want to get scared, spend some time on Have I Been Pwned? And this is the most just annoying part is actually setting up the new passwords for all the sites that you have already signed up for. So this might actually take, the better part of maybe 40 minutes to maybe an hour, depending on how many passwords you need to change. But once it's done, it's done.
And eventually
So
we'll be going over two-factor authentication, which I use for almost all of my accounts because there's some where I just can't.
yeah,
But
some
almost
sites
all of
don't
them.
use it. Some sites just really don't matter that much. I use it for anything that has my credit card. Anything that has anything to do with money, anything that is attached to a recovery email, because that email is kind of the keys to the kingdom as well. Because if I need to change a password on some other site, a lot of times I'll send an email to verify that it's okay for me to change that password. So if someone can get into that email, they can change my passwords on other sites. So if two-factor authentication is available, just use it. But we can go into that later.
Yeah. And I mean, I love it because as long as I have my phone on me, then I'll have that magical 6-character number that's just like, okay, I just need to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I could log into, say, my Facebook since I'm seeing it on the screen right now.
Hmm. If someone were interested in this, but they're like, it sounds like a hassle. I'm not sure that this is worth my time or effort, and they look up something on Reddit or Facebook or whatever, and someone says, LastPass got hacked, and so you put all your passwords on this site, and then hackers got access to it, so it actually is not secure. That is an argument that I've heard. What's wrong about that is that the only passwords that got stolen from that data breach were passwords where the initial master password was very weak or was used on another site.
Yeah,
So
and also something that a lot of people don't really consider is it's probably safer to be on a site that has just been hacked than to be on a site that hasn't been hacked. Because if they've just been hacked, then what they're going to do is they're going to immediately make things more secure. So just because your Facebook password was leaked doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a Facebook. I mean,
Right.
I don't use my Facebook at all, but if you trust it for security, then you can trust that Facebook will be more secure after the breach because something happened. They are going to be running around like chickens with their heads cut off to get that secure. So it will be more secure after that breach.
Yeah, fully. And yeah, so part of security is a lot of people really kind of see it as almost zero sum. That you're either secure or you're not secure, and that's not really the mindset that people in hacking or security use. What it is it's trade-offs and it's budgets. If you can make it more difficult for an attacker to get your information, it may not be worth their time to jump over the extra hurdles that you're putting in their way. They may just go after someone else. They may decide to get a real job. Who knows?
Yeah, it's kind of like
So
the same concept of if you ask a lot of professional lockpickers, like lockpicking lawyer, about master locks, he's going to say a master lock is not secure, but I would rather you use a master lock than not any lock at all.
right.
Because it's the people who don't have the experience to get into that lock won't get into it. Those who do, they're weighing the pros and cons. So it's better to have some security than no security at all.
Right. And a lot of people just are like, oh, it's too hard and screw it, they're going to get in anyway. That's not the case. Especially, when you get into higher stakes where there's actual espionage and nation states, they have budgets. And if their budget gets exceeded, they stop.
Yeah.
If you can just make it expensive and time consuming and difficult, then they're not going to do it. It's not going to be worth it for them. So that's part of the reason that encryption and two-factor authentication are important. Whereas they can be breached, but it takes a lot of effort and expertise and money. So if you can just throw some hurdles up, you're going to be fine.
Yeah. We never really thought of an outro, so if you want to see more of this stuff, then watch it. Maybe we'll figure it out for the next video.
Yeah, and we're going to have links down below. We're going to have our email address, comments on the videos. I don't know. Maybe comment, but if people get... maybe comments on the video. I'm not sure. I'll leave them open for now, but if people get irritating on it, I might switch it to moderated.